Hi, I'm reading from the book Färjan, The Ferry by me, Tomas Berglund, and I've come to the sixth section. Something that is fantastic is that we get along so well, Hans and I. It almost feels like we have known each other for a very long time. I don't know what kind of dream I am in when it comes to Hasse, but at least he is there as a guardian of my history on my father's side. It's not a lightly concocted story about Karl, my father. My father drank a lot, and then he mixed the alcohol with tablets. He went down to Spain and bought some of the tablets, and it was probably alcohol and tablets that took Karl's life, along with the fact that he drowned in water. He was buried at home in Sweden, in Malmö. We never met. I managed to piss off Uncle Hasse. It must have been last summer, not 2022, but 2021. I stepped on a sore toe, and I would be careful of similar toes in the future. I definitely thought Hasse would benefit from a computer, just something simpler, maybe a laptop. But he did such a triple whammy and got in such a bad mood that I had to back out of the situation. Hasse may not hate computers, but he doesn't like them any much. I realized I had stepped on a real landmine. We had a break of about 1 month, and we have sorted it all out now. I can understand to some extent. I grew up with computers. They came to us young people when I was 10 years old. When I was 15, there were computers in maybe every other home. When I was 20, basically every single student had their own computer. And then the internet came along and you started to be able to search for almost anything and start to get solid knowledge. It wasn't just waffle that took up space on the internet. There were some gems there. You could exchange information in a rapid pace. People could start to collaborate. Hasse has an absolutely fantastic memory and remembers details, small and large. You can't really compare humans to computers. I can understand if he had many others feel trapped in these times when basically everyone has a small computer machine in front of them all day long. I spend a large part of my waking time staring into a dumb can, but I like to write, and in a computer you can compile the written word and multiply it without any major cost. All is all it takes is a little click and you have a copy. 2 clicks, 2 copies. Some things become significantly cheaper when they end up in the world of computers. Some things you may be prepared to pay a little for. For example, it can be comfortable to read a regular old-fashioned paper book compared to reading on a bright screen. I call my cousin Tom. I get ready on the phone as if to wait for what is to come. I really want him to answer Tom or hi cousin, and then we start talking a little bit about different things that have happened or are happening or are about to happen. I don't want him to have the sound of being embarrassed in his voice, like I'm a burden to him, like I'm a burden. And yet I know that I am a burden. Since Tom fixes my car, he has a little bit of responsibility for my car working, and that is it's rolling. Now something strange has happened. The oil level light was flashing, but when I checked, the oil level on the gorge is full. But I tried to spread out my calls to cousin Tom as if to spread out the load. I spread out my text messages. I'm not really into texting Tom, though I much prefer talking to him. There's something about hearing his voice. He fills my life with security. He's always been there, and he still is. He's so valuable to me. I know he doesn't want to answer when I call at certain times. I wish I didn't. It didn't have to be that way, but now it is. Imagine if we could be enough for each other on every level, or if one of us covered up for the other. Maybe it will be such a beautiful day, a truly beautiful day. The cat on the rat on the rope on the ox, and so it goes over and over again. It just goes around in circles. What if I had earned or saved so much money that I could pay Cousin Tom? It wouldn't have been different. Then I would have gone out in search of another Mercedes 190 diesel 2.5 liter turbo that I would have for myself. Then I could have my current 190D 2.5 liters as a second car. That would have been something. Imagine giving Cousin Tom a penny, enough that he had little something to do, something fun with. It would be at least 10,000 Swedish kronor, maybe up to 50,000 Swedish kronor or more. Maybe it will come true someday. We'll see. Maybe that will take away the fun of helping me for free. Maybe there will never be anything free again. But I will give back, get to give back. Hopefully, I get to give back properly. What a dream, what a breathtaking thought. Imagine being able to make amends, doing equally, sharing the burdens, not being the one who just receives and receives, but being able to be there and pull a part of the load. What's what if that's what he thinks every time I call? Wonder if he needs something screwed on his Mercedes. I don't know. He's probably put himself in a very difficult position, becoming my private car mechanic. Not easy, and at the same time we're best cousins. It's a bit complicated. I call Aunt Mona and she keeps a pretty low tone, although she knows how much a moving company charges these days. A couple of thousand, not more. But I believe it, she says. Imse spider doesn't know up or down. It's impossible to reason with Aunt Mona. If she got her mind set on things being a certain way, then that's how it is. It doesn't matter what anyone else says or thinks. I'm right. I know best. If nothing else, I'll raise my voice. I love her and I love her children, but she can't forget that she's always right, because she's not, far from always, and that she's not simple at all. Aunt Mona can be terribly complicated in her own special way. Aunt Mona exercises quite a strong power on Mother Greta. Greta likes to follow in her sister's footsteps. If Mona has a mobile phone subscription, Greta will take that mobile phone subscription. If Mona has a certain recipe, my mother will also try the same recipe. Unfortunately, I don't think Mona's power is always for the good. She works a little bit like a witch, which is half kind. A lot of things don't turn out so well or so bright. A lot of things turn out dark and confusing. I know. Sometimes she knows more than those who work with the matter. She can do the whole at the pharmaceutic things in her head, and she knows all the dangerous combinations of medicine. But sometimes she's actually right. At many times she's actually thinks right. On Saturday evening, Aunt Mona drinks. Usually I think it's some sweet cider, but I've understood everything correctly. She drinks herself drunk, and she's considered a bit of a secret. I don't think Olof drinks anything. Aunt Mona sits in her solitude and tastes alcohol. Stepfather Bo said that when sunrises and sunsets starts coming on Mom Greta's mobile Saturday evening, usually no more than that. I remember one Christmas Eve when she was invited to a can of beer at David's house. She sat like a fly and sucked up the beer. It was as if she had been wandering around in a desert for a very long time. I called cousin David and he's been home for COVID Monday to Thursday, but he said he was on the mend. I took it to mean that David has been feeling pretty bad anyway. I never asked why he hasn't contacted me. Maybe it doesn't help. Why should I bring it up? I haven't felt bad that we haven't heard from each other, but I can miss him. And a relationship like the one we had, we have on each other, burned ourselves on each other, and cooled off from falling next to each other. But we have had each other well. Still, life goes on. Best cousins that only Tom and I are. Matthias is also great, but David and I have had each other so well. Aunt Mona's husband Olof is a special person. He is tall and handsome and well trained, but has poor hearing. He has repaired as many boat engines as possible, as many scooters and lawn mowers as possible. He is largely self-taught. He has tried and tested and made things work as he went along, and he has also taught my cousins the noble school of screwing. Olof is not one to leave anything to chance. He is meticulous, and meticulous is what he leaves behind. He also has been well trained and a good runner as a young man. I have it because he has run a Swedish mile in 36 minutes, 10 kilometers. Not everyone does that. Olof is truly the kind of person you can look up to. He's really good at basically everything he does. The first thing he does every day is to go outside and walk. I think it's about 60 minutes, but he keeps himself in shape. He's 82 years old, and it's hard to believe when you meet him. He had hip surgery, and he has complained that he has lost muscle mass with the surgery. But I don't know. He has pulled out long wood to do this season. He may have to get on with his stuff. It's his life. He has always done wood. You could say that cousin Tom is worse or better at some of the things that my aunt Mona's husband Olof was good at. Cousin Tom is one of Sweden's best shooters in several different categories. I don't know how many awards Tom has won. Then Tom has built a boat that goes really fast. I driven with Tom at basically 80 knots on the swamp. That's a violent force in the boat engine. And then Tom has been tuning his car in various ways. He scared up his Volvo 245 and now it's the Mercedes 190 diesel turbo. He's probably tuned his scooter a lot. I don't remember how many horsepower, 211 or something. It's hard to measure up Tom. It's really hard to measure up Tom. He's almost superhuman, like a superhero, almost like Superman. He is so meticulous and he really goes into understanding, for example, a boat engine. He gets into the engine down to the smallest components where you can scare up an extra horsepower. That's where he's going. We're going to understand exactly what is happening if we change a little here and a little there. And you can't be too meticulous. Everything can be measured or catalogued. You're aware of the smallest things in the big picture, nothing left to chance. Uncle Uno is mentally retarded. It's like he lives in a parallel reality. Uno can't talk very well. He has his own language. My mother and my Aunt Lena understand what Uno is saying, but the rest of us mostly hear him making noises. It's a nightmare to be born into the life of Uno's, not being understood, even though there are two people who understand, but the rest, and it's hard to know what Uno doesn't understand. He probably figures out most of it. It doesn't take very long for anyone. Uno thinks I've gotten fat. He says it loud and clear, in a happy tone. Tomas tock, Tomas thick. Thanks, Uncle Uno. You say what others don't say outright. Uno is said to have been mentally retarded when he was 2 years old. There were some other children in the parking lot who hit Uno with some wooden stick. There was some blood. It was more common in the past to blame mental retardation on some external influence. It must be very difficult to inflict the injuries that most people that must have been involved. 4 children in the family, one schizophrenic, one schizoaffective, one mentally retarded, and a completely healthy Aunt Mona. Talk about a coincidence. The die has been cast, but they are a wonderful bunch. Aunt Lena is the youngest. She's probably had the biggest hit from the disease, if you don't count Uno's development disorder as a disease. My mother's is schizoaffective, while Aunt Lena has more clearly schizophrenic illness. The first time I heard about schizophrenia was probably when Hitchcock was putting together his film The Psycho, the famous scene with a knife that chops up and down behind the shower curtain. One of the characters is said to have a multiple personalities, and and after that it was if schizophrenia was connected to multiple personalities. We had to add that it was most often only about one person and one personality. Lately, I have started to see a completely different Aunt Lena than the one I have seen before. Aunt Lena opens her home to Mother Greta. It's only for her to come and stay with her. She shares of everything. How many evenings I have driven Mother Greta home to Lena, and Aunt Lena comes down and meets me at the car. Aunt Lena is a real hero. What if she had not been there? It would have been a disaster. Maybe Mother Greta would have moved in with me. It's hard to imagine a life without Lena. She has done so much for Greta. She's a real hero in the truest sense of the word. When the two of them were young, it was almost like they were twins. They bought the same clothes, the same things over and over again, and they got a lot of help from grandma and grandpa. Things really changed when my mom uh, and Bo moved out to Nybyen. Maybe it was useful for both of them. I remember how my mom talked about my, my grandpa after he passed away. He was really deeply rooted in my mom. Bo used to talk about Greta playing the same record over and over again. It was much easier when grandma has passed away. It was like she was more easier for my mom to process grandma than she processed grandpa. But that's how it was. Johannes has almost only talked about Henrik, the twin brother, and how they were locked out of home at a young age, and how their parents died of cancer at a younger age. Next week, Johannes will have the so-called PSA test to check if everything is okay with the prostate. Johannes is worried that he will get cancer. He says that he imagined that he had cancer in one of his legs a few years ago. It had been a real pain, like real, that pain that radiated down his right leg. But in the end, he had understood that it was not cancer. Lots in the head, lots in the head. I'm also afraid of getting cancer. I sometimes imagine that I have cancer in some strange part of the body.